audience, but in the early days, were you just happy to be there? Was it like the exposure was the payment?
For sure. I mean, there's definitely, a thing called paying your dues. I felt that I was being taken advantage of in the very beginning, but my position on that was that, hey, you know what? Like, they're kind of making a monster out of me by giving me all this attention. When I say I'm an attention whore, I really, really mean that, like, so genuinely, that, like, I was never particularly motivated by financial gain. I just wanted notoriety, attention.
Back here now, man. Backstage at Forbes 30 Under 30 in Detroit. Everett Teller. Thank you, man, for joining me first. And secondly, congrats again to becoming the new CEO of Kickstarter. Make sure y'all download the app. He asked me to say that, right? Make sure you download the app. Congrats, man. It's a big deal.
Yeah, thank you. It's still settling in. This is, day 6 for me in terms of work days, and it's humbling to be in this position, to be at a platform that impacts so many people in a positive way, and to be able to come here at the Forbes 30 Under 30 Summit. This is my first speaking engagement as CEO of Kickstarter, and to be in front of thousands of incredible young leaders. It was just a great opportunity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What's it like to be a CEO, man? I know we was off camera chatting about you can start your own LLC and be a CEO, but it's not the same. Like, you're a CEO of an established company, man. What's that like?
It's a huge responsibility. For all of the love that I got last week, I also got critiques from the company. I got a lot of feedback. I am now the person, when people have a problem, I am the person. And what people don't understand being in a CEO role is that everything's your fault. Everything's your fault. No matter what, you have to be able to take that responsibility. It's a huge responsibility that comes with that. And so there's the glitz and glamour, but what people don't realize is that it's a huge responsibility. You're responsible for so many people, but then you're also responsible for a platform that impacts millions of people, or at least in my regard. So for me, that's a lot of responsibility. Every day I wake up and I have to make sure that I'm doing what's best for them, right? Like, a lot of times you in your life become secondary because you have a responsibility, a huge responsibility to your users, to your employees, to their families, and everybody that impacts. So that's the big responsibility. On the other side, it's cool to be the boss.
Absolutely.
It's cool to be the boss.
Yeah, but no, I was just saying, it's cool to be a boss, but often you've never taken a private jet before. You never taken a private plane, man. I'm gonna need you as CEO now to take that private plane.
Listen, man. But listen, this is where the responsibility comes in, right? It's because you lead by example, right? Me taking economy tickets, or me not staying at fancy 5-star hotels, says, look, I'm willing to walk the same way that you guys do, right? That I'm willing to, I don't see myself any different than you guys. And that's extremely important. You have to be a man of the people, not only for your users and your audience, but also internally as well. And so that's important. You make those sacrifices sometimes for the greater good, and to show that the company means more than your own individual wants, and that's really important. Yeah. But again, like, it's really cool to be the person that has, with all that responsibility, you have the ability to impact the business in a way that you just can't in other C-suite, roles.
Absolutely. How do you scale a company? Like, what is that like? I hear the phrase all the time, and I know what it is, but how do you do it?
Well, it depends. Are you talking about scaling a company that's Kickstarter size and growing it, or small?
Both.
It really fundamentally comes down to understanding people. What people don't understand is that, I said this to some of our users that gave, critical feedback. I said, I've made a very successful career by literally just listening.
Absolutely.
You've seen so many companies, and they do things, you're like, are you listening to your users? Are you having any just casual conversations? Because if you're actually talking to your users and your customers, you wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
And the data doesn't even reflect that, right? And so for me, I think scaling a company always comes down to what we just talked about on stage: finding product market fit, being able to effectively reach people where they are, right? You need to know where your communities, your users, the people that you need to reach are at. If you're trying to build a company that is, you know, for maybe an older crowd, you probably shouldn't be on TikTok,
Yeah.
right? Like you should understand your audience, where they live in these online communities, and be able to engage them effectively, but then also bring them into experiences that are going to be engaging and keep them retained. A lot of people, they reach some of those communities, but then they bring them into an experience. So that product and that marketing flywheel, you know, is a catch-22 for sure.
Yeah. When you were out there and you were just coming up with the concept of starting your own company back when you were young, Every Taylor, right?
Yeah.
Young. What was that mindset like, man? Take me through that transition of, because there's a lot of people out there, they work and they dream of starting their own company.
Yeah.
They dream of being a CEO, but they just can't get there. How do you get there?
Honestly, you just gotta have the willpower.
Mm.
You know, what's interesting about Kickstarter and what inspires me so much about Kickstarter is that we actually give people a platform where they don't have the excuse.
Yeah.
If you need money and you need the resources, it's right here. And for me, I just never allowed myself to have or make excuses for myself. I never allowed myself to get down on myself. If I had an idea or something that I felt was a great idea, I wanted to go for it. There's a bunch of companies that didn't work out or I didn't get funding for. I just met a few VCs over here before I went on stage, and I was like, hey, you guys actually turned a company I co-founded down a few years ago, you know?
What was their reaction when they saw it? Was it like,
They were like, what, really? You know, they were surprised, and they were like, wait, we got to get you to meet, you know, someone. And I'm like, you know, that's part of the process. And so I've had a lot more failures than wins. But what I will say where I've been effective at is that I haven't built these multi-billion-dollar companies that I founded, but I've been able to identify a problem, be able to find out where those users live, and create products that had product market fit that were actually effective, and be able to scale to, you know, smaller profitable companies, not at the size of Kickstarter, but still smaller profitable companies. And, you know, we were with Haroon on stage. He's a G. I mean, he's amazing. He's incredible.
absolutely.
Most people can't sell a company for $1 billion.
Yeah.
But listen, I tell people all the time, have smaller goals, right? If you can build a company and you can pay your rent, say you still got your other job, and you can pay your rent off of your company, or you even your car bill or whatever, and then
Or
you
student
go,
loans.
or student loans. It might be the car bill, then it's paying your rent, and then it's wait, I'm paying all of my expenses just from this company, right? And then boom, now you're making maybe 250, 300K a year. If you look at the world, the average income in most places is like 30K. If you're making 250, 300K running a company, that's an incredible thing. And so I think sometimes we have unrealistic standards, and it doesn't have to be that way. You know, run your own race. You don't have to be like anybody else, and just continue to climb and move up.
Yeah, and part of that human part of too, the people side, right? You say the willpower, right?
Yeah.
You have to have that. But another thing that especially you live about, humility,
Yes.
right? The humility side of it. Going into a door and knowing you don't know everything, right?
Exactly.
Why is it important to keep that humility, and especially at a high level?
Because people can tell when you're not real.
Yeah.
They can feel it. What's interesting about Kickstarter, one of our biggest categories is like games and tabletop games and stuff like that. I've never played like Dungeons and Dragons and all of those things like that. Super cool, but I've never personally done that. I'm playing my first tabletop game, like RPG game, this week with my engineering team. And I'm excited. I'm gonna be doing that for 3 hours in the zone and learning, because I want to be authentic to whatever I'm doing. I come in and I said to that audience, I said, listen, I'm gonna keep it real with y'all. I don't know this, you know, I don't know this space, but I'm gonna learn, and I'm gonna learn better, and just give me some time. I'm a quick learner. 5 years ago, I bought my first art piece. I didn't know anything about art, and now look at me, right? And so if you're gonna really invest in that, and also be real with yourself that you know, may or may not know something, your audience is going to respect that a lot more and see the effort that you put into actually getting to know that space.
What's Every Taylor's superpower?
I think empathy, man. I think empathy on both sides. The ability to empathize with customers, users, people generally. Like being able to understand their pain points, the things that they need to be successful, the things that they want, right? Things that bother them, the things that make them feel insecure. Those are all things that you need to know when building a company. And on the flip side, leadership is all about empathy. We talked about that private jet thing, right? What does it look like to my team if I'm out there flying a private jet? That's empathy, man. That's being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes
Nani
and
mkuzi?
think about how they feel.
Yule kijana wa
from you
mtura,
after
so kwamba kuna
speaking.
chuma yake pale,
And so to
ile
me,
chuma ya
the ability
Esther.
to empathize with
They go.
anybody from any walk of life,
Ni chuchu ni
to
yako.
me, is my true superpower.
In 2022, coming to a close almost,
Yeah.
man. You CEO of Kickstarter now. What's the soundtrack? What's the song that's motivating you heading into 2023?
Oh man, you know what? It's Click. It's Click by Jay-Z, Big Sean, Kanye. Because I can't do it alone. I can't do this alone. Like, I have to have an amazing team, and so I want to get them hyped up. I want to get hyped up and know that like we're in this together. And you know the lyrics. I'm not gonna say it, but you know we're gonna kill it, man.
Absolutely. Never tell them. Thanks, my brother.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Hakuna stima huko kabisa. Giza. Ah.
Dakota, it is
Waka
so
sai.
lovely to be here
Waka
with you
sai
today.
nakuja
Thanks for the
giza.
conversation.
Nasra.
Of
Sasa
course, so
ilikuwa
I'm
imeondoka na sasa
wanting
vile
to
imeenda
start,
ndio
what
itakuja.
experience or insight
Lakini
made you
tunakuja tu
want
baadaye.
to start your own company?
Yeah, it's really a funny story. I grew up, and as I was a kid, I worked in my family business, which was a
Hiyo ni
trucking
uko nayo hapo ndani.
and I got to move
Na mbona
trucks
ina
around
matandiko?
and fill them up with diesel, and really got to intimately learn and understand the industry. And I saw a lot of the problems and a lot of the challenges that we faced, and that's what prompted us to really start Exos. Is
Ndio
some of the
kupika nani?
experiences I had there.
Cool. Tell me a little bit more about those experiences.
Yeah, so we were actually based in
Na matokeo
California,
na viazi
and
kidogo.
we had a large fleet of heavy-duty
Mama.
diesel trucks.
Viazi uko
And one
nayo.
of the things I was tasked with doing is figuring out how we were going to
There's
address the new
Magali.
emissions regulations that were impacting some of those fleets. And so I started doing research and looking into all
Oh, ni
kinds of different
changanya.
things, like biodiesel and
Changanya
compressed natural gas trucks,
napika.
and even electric or hybrid trucks at the time. And that's really
Yeah,
what
unaweza changanya.
kind of prompted me to say, hey, wait a minute.
Huh?
These emissions regulations
tomato.
eventually look like they're going to go to full zero emissions. And nobody's building a fully electric commercial vehicle right now. And I saw that when you look at fleets versus passenger cars, they were actually ideal candidates for electric vehicles. They return to base, they do
Yeah.
under 200 miles,
Nasikia tu miguu
and
inaniuma,
they
ni kama
generally
weight
return to a
imekuwa
dedicated charging
mingi.
location. So it became
Ukisema
kind of
miguu
this
inauma,
epiphany
yeah,
that I just said, why not do it? Nobody else is doing it.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So, you started your own company, you built it kind of from the ground up. What's been your approach to building your own team, and how do you think about
Either
company
was it-
culture
yani
when doing
haikukaa.
that?
That is probably one of the
Ukaenda,
most
ngoja
challenging
tu.
things in scaling any
Utaenda kuchukua
business.
kesho.
I have always kind of had this
Nachukua tu hiyo
perspective
za
that
mfuko mbili.
I'm really just
Na
kind of a
kikombe ya
central
white.
coordinator there,
Niambia white.
and I need to hire and
No,
really
kombe
retain
lete kombe
and
ya
attract the
Kombe
best
hii
kinds of
white.
people, right? In
Si
every
hii.
area of the organization.
Kombe ya-
It's
ona
not
ile
just
zile
a
kombe ile
great
ya green plain.
CTO or a great CFO.
Ile
It's
ziko
at
huku
every
hii
level
side karibu
and
na hii
every
huko
different
juu.
function.
Ile ya
And I
zamani.
think
Mwingine ambaye
in
niletea
doing
white
that,
yake.
you really try
Uliacha
to hire
deposit.
folks that you want to work with and you want to spend your day with.
Mwanamume tena.
And that doesn't mean you hire your best friend, but it means you hire people that challenge you, that hold you accountable, and that push you to new heights. And I think I've been really fortunate to have an amazing co-founder that helped do that, but also really we've been fortunate to have incredible people throughout the organization. And building culture isn't something that's like a single task. You can't just create a good break room and then you're
Sasa
good
mimi
goal
ndo simu
overnight.
nyingine ya Samsung.
It's something that takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of time.
Si
And
something.
I think building
Wakupe
culture
hiyo
kind of
ingine.
revolves around building
Hiyo
trust
ingine sina
and
iPhone,
the
kwanza
relationships
nipatie.
with people that you work with.
Hiyo ingine sina
Absolutely.
iPhone.
And so, speaking of challenges,
Ndiye
which you just
amekupea.
brought up,
Eh?
what were some of
Ndiye
the challenges
amekupea.
that you and your team
Anipatie.
faced when first scaling up your
Si
company?
sister yake mdogo.
Yeah, there's a long list of challenges.
I'm sure.
Si kama kuna kitu
You
kingine
know, I
ambacho
think one of
hawezi
the ones
kupatia ni
that people
simu.
talk about a lot is fundraising. And when you're starting a new startup,
Naomba
there's a
tubadilishane,
lot of
nasema,
different strategies and approaches as to how you can fundraise and
Sana
raise
simu yako
capital.
lady.
But raising capital for a
Katoka,
manufacturing
naomba
business,
sawa. Sana
which is
nimekasirika.
inherently very capital intensive,
Ameona
was
nimekasirika.
one of the most challenging things we ever did. We
Wewe
talked to
uko na iPhone
hundreds
dadangu
of
nipatie
investors
hiyo.
and continue to talk to many investors in this industry about what we're doing and our mission and how we're trying to solve a really big problem. But a lot of times,
Msichana wangu
you get a
ila yule
no, and
mfanyakazi
that can
ataanza
be
kumtenga.
a letdown. So managing that process and managing the
Naomba sasa
entire
msichana
communication
wangu
stream with
mfanyakazi
investors
atamtenga.
was
Naambia
incredibly
hawezi
challenging.
kutenga chana.
I think the other thing, which kind of ties to my first point, is actually building a physical product. Building hardware is incredibly challenging to start with. And then you layer on all sorts of things like regulations, tariffs, all kinds of external factors that you have no control over, but have to plan for. Those are really challenging parts of the business that sometimes you don't know what you're missing, or you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. So speaking of raising funds and money, what would it take to get you to sell your company?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like a personal, I wouldn't call it a child, but it's
Right.
that level of a relationship. I don't know, to be honest. I can't answer that question for you. I'm invested in it, and I come to work because I'm excited, not because I get a paycheck. And that's really the motivating factor for me. I'm excited about really solving a big problem.
Yeah.
When you look at this business, one of the reasons why we started it wasn't just about building something that scaled and was super profitable. It's a triple bottom line business.
Yeah.
So people, profits, and planet. And I think when you look at new businesses today in our generation, we're focused on doing something, but doing something with purpose. And it's exciting for me because I know even if we're not delivering 1 million trucks the next year, every truck we deliver is actually making a difference. And it really keeps you motivated, particularly as you're going through difficult times, whether it's supply chain or whether it's hiring or investing or raising money. You have that kind of ultimate kind of motivator, which is you're doing something good for the planet, and it keeps you on course.
Excellent. So me, I am a lifelong learner. I love to read. I love to learn. I'm sure a lot of co-founders and founders like yourself feel the same way. What is one lesson or one thing that you still are hoping to learn?
That's also a really good question,
Yeah.
and the list is really long. This is
4
being
minutes,
very
9.
transparent. I'm still learning how to balance
After 4 minutes,
kind of
9.
home life and also the work life. And I've become so invested, so passionate about the business that at times you forget to focus on family or your friends, or making sure that you have enough space to ensure your mental health is okay. And I think that's something I'm continuing to learn. But one of the things that really, in addition to that, motivates me about this industry is it's constantly evolving. And I really, really love the technology that we're working on, because it's not just about building a truck. We're solving issues that have never been solved ever before, right? Building long-term lithium-ion batteries that can be 100% recyclable, that really solve the climate crisis. Like, those are big technical challenges that every day get me excited to just even show up.
Awesome. And last question for you.
Yeah.
Where do you see both yourself and your company 5 years from now?
That's a great question. I hopefully see myself right where I am in terms of working with Exos. Personally and professionally, I think I would like to see a lot more growth in terms of learning about the future of the industry, the future of how we can continue to make a difference in the climate problem that we're dealing with. And I really think Exos will be the leading solution in this industry. I think for us, we've seen how the traditional OEMs are really slow to act and to change, and they're only doing this because they're being forced to. We're doing it because we're passionate about it. We want to actually solve a real problem here, and we can do it profitably. And so I think there's nothing really holding us back.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the conversation and the chat. This has been wonderful. So
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Baby, lengo umeka juu. Lengo mashati.
Gani mashati.
The sacrifices you make when you're creating a brand. Any creator can relate. It's lonely, it can be frightening, you can be scared. I'm so proud of myself for believing in something that I worked so hard to create. It's incredible. My name is Alexandra Cooper. I go by Alex, but Alexandra because this is Forbes. I am 27 and I have a podcast called Call Her Daddy. Call Her Daddy essentially is a podcast, but also just a brand and a lifestyle that embodies what maybe you would talk about with your friends in your bedroom, but maybe too embarrassed to talk about in public or tweet about. There's so much shame around so many topics and themes that I was fortunate to grow up in a household that was normalized to speak your mind. And so I was like, give me the microphone. My dad is in the industry. He does sports production, and there was always cameras in my.
This guy was there standing with the condom. And the chick alikuwa amelala kwa bed. So I didn't know kama ni walikuwa wanataka kwanza kuanza kuzungumza social TV.
Hi guys, it's a girl Fly with my deep secret, and I know it's not easy for you to share your secret. It takes a lot of courage, and I want to encourage you. One step of healing is forgiving yourself from the wrong things that you have done. Set your mind free from the negative emotions. So keep on sharing your stories. Thank you.
My deep secret is that
My deepest secret.
My deep secret is.
My deep secret is.
My deepest secret is.
My deepest secret is that.
My deepest secret is.
My
My deep secret is.
My deep secret is.
My deep secret is. My deep secret is I once found my ex pants down with a condom on, and he was with my roomie. So it happened. This Chile, we were in the same campus. We've been together for 3 years at a time. Now we're in the final year. Even my guy alikuwa anamjua, like we were so best friends kabisa. This guy alikuwa anamjua, we did everything together, we used to go out together. Kila mahali I was, udem angekuanga hapo. So after some few years, 3 years, hiyo mwaka ya mwisho, we started having issues with my boyfriend. Ile tu naona mtu anakulenga tu huko, unajaribu kumcall, anakata simu, ananyamaza for like a day, then when he comes back anasema tu alikuwa busy. So me, nilikuwa nimeanza tu kushuku and stuff. So this day, unajua hata before that, kama siku around, my guy would call her kama hapo anajua alikuwa and that stuff. So it tukaanza kuwa na issues. So at times you engage with the guy. So that's my friend kama msana mwongelesha. Alikuwa ananiambia tu ajaongea. Na yeye pia mwenyewe angejifanya nzeti. Kwani nini mbaya? Mbona sipigiangi simu? Mbona tuitani kwenda sherehe? Because the guy would take us out and drop us back home and all that. So this day tumelitana juu na rafiki yangu juu ya some issues to not the boyfriend. Some issues to like kwa tuna issues za kawaida tu za marafiki kukaa pamoja. So I left her in the house and went. So she didn't know I was coming back.